Welcome to Locked in My Office. In this episode, there's a little hole in the recording schedule, and so one of the nice things about my job is I can always just ask students to come chit-chat with me, and that's just what I did. So I invited one of my microcontroller students, Sierra, and I told her to bring some friends, and so she brought Lily and Carson, and we actually had quite a fun conversation about, being a student is a topic that often comes up when talking to students, anxieties, life choices, things like that. So it's kind of, I suppose, a philosophical episode to some degree, but also it's pretty funny. So I hope you enjoy, and also I don't think there's gonna be something posted next week just because of spring break. So there'll be a little lapse, but I'll be back after that with who knows what. So hope you enjoy. All right, it's the Rando special. That's kind of what this is today.
No,
it's
that's fair.
Well, we didn't even do our sound check because we're so behind. But you can hear me and.
Hello, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Wait,
Hello.
you're on the same mic as me. Okay, you go.
Hello.
Perfect. We're working. There we go. Now we're actually ready to go. So today we're just here to shoot the shit. I think, right? With some students. This sounds like fun. So, why don't you all recommend yourself? Why don't you recommend yourself that people listen to you right now? No. Why don't you guys introduce yourself?
I would not recommend my company. Just names.
Yeah.
Sierra DeRusha, EET.
I'm Lily Atten. I'm a CPE.
Carson Bellick. I'm an EE.
Super cool. All right, good conversation. See you guys. No. So. We're midway through the semester. How are you guys feeling?
Feeling pretty good.
I'm actually fine. It's my last semester, so I actually don't have a huge load of stuff. Your class is actually probably like the most I'm spending my time. But upon that, like other than that, it's like Haas classes and stuff. So I'm just cruising.
Must be nice.
Yeah, no, you're done. You got like 19 credits?
No, I have 15 credits, but it's just a lot of. I've taking 2 coding classes, a math class, and an EE class, so it's a lot, and working 20 hours.
Yeah, true. They had a co-op with Calumet Electronics, and they're still doing that.
You're still there?
I'm still there, yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What you got going on?
Oh, I'm just going through classes, kind of going on autopilot already.
What's your hardest class you have this semester?
Electronic applications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's that with?
Yeah.
That's with Bergstrom.
Dr. Bergstrom,
and we cover basically a lot of small signal MOSFET and BJT amplifier designs.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
a lot of IC level designing.
I never had a Bergstrom class because I'm not EE. The only thing I've heard about him is the candy thing. And people have referred to him as Evil Santa because like on Christmas he wears like a sweater. And they're like, Evil Santa's back in town to give us the hard exams.
I feel like Dr. Bergstrom has I feel like he gets a bad rap with students because he is challenging, right? His exams are challenging, but I feel that the people that rise to meet the challenges that he presents benefit from it.
No,
right?
yeah.
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
I think all the classes I've had with him are like, if you go to office hours when you need it and you do all the homework ahead of time and you study, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
The only people I've heard really complain about him are people that I know don't really put in much effort.
Oh, I have to work now.
I mean, electronics is just a hard class in general. I mean, you're going through so much content and all of it's new. So you have nothing to really base it on. Because circuits 1 and 2 are all introducing resistors, capacitors, and inductors, and you're just getting that intro level concept of it. But then electronics, you're actually starting to go into diodes, MOSFETs, BJTs, and how those, because you're actively controlling those. They're not just passive elements anymore. They're not just reacting to whatever's happening. You're actively changing their values.
That's fair.
Yeah. But I go to Bergstrom's office hours a lot, and they're very helpful.
You know,
So.
I actually I learned that like students don't know what office hours actually mean. Like there's a non-negligible amount of students that don't know what office hours means. Like they don't know that it means like open office. Like I don't know. I think I think I actually might have been one of those students like starting out. Like I never went to a professor's office hours until like my last year. And I think it's a mistake most students make to not go to office hours.
Well, and I'm now just like last semester. I'm like, oh, there's a learning center.
Yeah.
Because like in your class, I don't really know anyone. Like I know you now, but like I don't know a lot. Well, you're too smart too for me, so it doesn't help. But I don't know a lot of people, and so I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna suffer alone. And then I realized the other day, I was like, oh, this is why we have office hours in a learning center.
Yeah, that was the thing that I did as a student was like, so I had a bunch of friends, but they were all mechanical engineers, and so I was still kind of isolated. I didn't have a bunch of EE friends, and it was kind of a small program, and so I went through so much of it, kind of more or less alone. Mm-hmm. But honestly, like all of this is so much better if you don't go through it alone. Like if you make study groups and things like that, it's like one of the most powerful things you can do is just like I don't want to say suffer together, but to like experience and like feel that you're not alone. It's like really, really, really beneficial.
And I feel like I've had that in my other courses because EET, like there's like 8 of us, so we all know each other and we can shoot the shit and whatnot. But yeah, this course, I'm like, I don't know any EEs, and you're again like, you don't suffer with me because you don't suffer because you just know everything, and that's
I don't know everything.
Not helpful.
That is the thing I miss about EET most, because I used to be EET, and it's so much easier to talk to people when there's 10 people in a class than like my classes, which are like 50. It's so hard. Like, you
really have to put yourself out there.
Yeah,
that's how I got through fall of 22. Is I had a group of, I think it was like 5 or 6 of us that we were all in electronics and EMAG together in signals and systems. So all 3 of us, I mean, we'd be spending Friday night from like 3 p.m. when we got out of class until midnight doing homework. But we were all doing the homework, and we all would be talking back and forth with each other, figuring out problems, like picking up where somebody else didn't have the understanding and then helping them where they didn't have the understanding as well.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I mean, I feel like I say it in class, but like students, you guys learn best when you're learning from each other. Like professors can sit up there and talk all they want, and then I know I always say that I've had some professors where they would give quizzes the same day that you learn the material, and that was so bad for me because like I always have to sit down and digest and like apply things beforehand, and so like expecting instant comprehension was just so unfair in my opinion. But
well, everyone like learns differently too, so you kind of need it to be like digested in multiple ways. I don't even know if it's like necessarily the fact that like a student is telling me. I think it's just that now I'm hearing it in a second way, so now I can actually apply it to myself.
I almost think it's like the opposite. It's not another student telling me. It's that if someone asks me a question, I'm gonna try to answer it even if I don't fully know, but then I realize that I don't know it as well as I thought I did.
So now you have to
and then I'm like, oh crap, and then I go and figure it out.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, being able to teach something, like, or having to like explain something, is also really important. Like, all the topics that I teach classes on, like beforehand, I would consider myself to be like have been mid-tier, and then all of a sudden you're like, crap, I have to like understand this to like teach it, and like so teaching a class like. Being told you have to teach a class in something is the best way to really get good at something, because it's like, okay, because otherwise, like, I'm just going to be embarrassing myself the entire time, you know?
Well, and I feel like for like you too, being like an alumni, like you have your classes that you teach and you feel like specialized in them, but I also feel like you get looked at as, oh, you're an EE professor, you probably know these other EE topics, and now I can ask you about anything, and that must be so nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it does happen. Like, I've had students like come and like I'm pretty weak with like mathematics, but like sometimes like students will like come and be like, hey, are you able to help with like this big statistics problem? And I'll be like,
yikes.
But it's been good for me because I have tried to help before, and like getting that like that refresher is nice, because it's totally one of those things like if you don't use it, you definitely lose it.
Yeah, 100. Well, yeah, because even courses like C is a prereq for microcontrollers.
Yeah.
But I took that class 3 years ago, and I'm like, I don't remember what a pointer is. I have no idea. Yeah. Definitely one of those things if you're gonna lose it for sure.
I think there's part of that separates like really great professors between the good ones, is that they're able to explain it in different ways, and they're able to understand what students are thinking. So I think that's one issue I find with professors who have been here for a long time and in academia, is they understand the PhD level and they get the really high level and really complex issues, but then they have to go back down to the low level where they're trying to explain it to someone who has no base understanding of the topic.
Sure.
And that can be very hard to explain when you haven't thought in that way for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Not to get like too broad, big worldly.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm like being in 20s, like I'm realizing how much of life is just going to be based on like my decisions. I know that sounds like not.
Nah, nothing matters right now.
Okay, I was like, in my mind that made sense for the conversation we were talking about. I know that was kind of like off. I'm realizing like how much the rest of my life is gonna look based on like what efforts I'm putting in and like where I'm directing my energy and the choices I'm making directly. That's very scary.
Yeah.
We're all terrified. Please help.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's true, and so. So are you asking for advice, or are you just saying that as a statement and you want to change the topic?
No.
Okay.
It's something on my mind. You're a bit older than me.
Yeah.
Not by much, but you are old. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're like established. You have like a family and stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that feeling ever goes away, like that terrifyingness of like choice and all that stuff. I think, I guess at least for me, what I've realized is make choices that are going to yield you being happy, right? So like, because there's other things that form into that calculus of like, oh, am I gonna make more money, or am I gonna be able to live at a certain place? But like, honestly, you really do have to prioritize your happiness, because, like, for example, right, a big decision I made, and maybe I said this on the podcast before, but is there's two flavors of professors, really, right? There's research professors, like regular tenure track professors, and then there's teaching professors. And so the research professor has this need to continually do research and get grants and fund grad students and all that stuff, and there's less of a focus on teaching. And then the teaching professor, it's just teaching, right? And so the pay is definitely less. I think it would be like a $30,000 pay difference. But for me, so in grad school, I was kind of being like pressured into like, oh, you're going to be a professor, right? You're going to be like a real professor, and I was like, yeah. And the more I got into teaching, the more I was like, I just want to focus on that, because it actually like the interactions with humans and all that stuff is important to me. And so that's probably one of the best decisions, is like not going where like people were trying to push me. And like, even though it is terrifying to make your own choice, I feel like it's better than the alternative. You know what I'm saying? Like people like choosing for you. Yeah, so there's that. And I think also, I mean, like this podcast is a choice. No one ever said like, hey, you should sit down and make a podcast, right?
Yeah.
It was just a thing that's like, well, I had the camera equipment for the educational videos, and I was like, I should do a podcast because I like talking to people, and I might as well like record it and like share it with other, and yeah, so I don't know if I have good advice other than like just take the choices that make you happy. And I understand that there's going to be work behind it. Like there's always work behind things. And the other thing so you might have like a fear of like making a wrong choice. Do you have that fear, or?
That coupled with like in order to say yes to something, you have to say no to other things.
Yeah.
And that sucks too. Do you ever think about like there's like Shane, like you're like number like 237, and there could be like a 532.
Like the multiverse thing.
The multiverse thing.
Yeah.
Where like you're making the other decision that you didn't in previous, and wondering like which one had like the best life. That sucks.
We're in the worst
I feel
timeline.
like throwing on previous decisions, though, can just be worse, and you just kind of have to accept
Oh,
what choices
100%.
you've made and just
Yeah.
keep moving forward. And
But sometimes it's inevitable. Like you can't not think about like what if. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
The Science Friday episode for New Year's this year was about yourself and your future self, and how you view other people versus how you view yourself versus how you view you in 5 years, you in 10 years. And they did a bunch of like brain scans, like watching brain activity, telling people to think about themselves, think about someone else, think about yourself in like next week, next month, next year. And the way that your brain lights up when you're thinking about yourself in the future is the same as when you think about other people, and it's different from how you think about yourself now. Which is why it's so hard for people to like try to make good decisions necessarily about like what will affect them in the future, because you're kind of just thinking about it disconnected from yourself entirely.
We've had a conversation on this before. I think that's wild.
It's insane.
That like, yeah, that you like the future you is like not something your brain can comprehend as like yourself, and will always be just something in like the future and not something that you can like almost obtain, even though it is like obtainable. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and also if you subscribe to the idea of like evolution and all that, like our brains aren't, we weren't grown or evolved to think in such long time spans. Like we're pretty like reactionary, like in terms of like the way like our brains put together, and so it's kind of interesting because what you're asking is something that your brain intrinsically is not able to do.
Right.
Like it's just the way it's wired. Yeah.
Making choices. That's what we're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose it's crazy because so you think about like, okay, this choice might cause this to happen, might cause this to happen, and maybe I just got lucky. But there's so many things that were really scary when I made the choice that almost in every case I'm like, man, I'm glad it happened that way. And that just happened for me. I bought my house when I was still a grad student on my tiny grad student pay, right? It wasn't a bunch of money. And we bought a house and it was kind of a big gamble. But now after the pandemic and like real estate prices have gone way up here, like super hardcore, and like our house is like doubled in price, and like finding a house that has any property, which is really important to my wife and I. And so it was one of those things, it was terrifying, and even through like grad school, like paying for it was like terrifying, but now I'm looking back and like, man, I'm really glad we did that.
That's wild.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think, right, life is about being flexible, right? So being comfortable in life is about being flexible, and knowing that, yeah, sure, maybe there are 256 versions of you, right? We can only store it in a byte. But, right?
That was so nerdy.
Yeah, so there's that many versions of you. And you know what? I'm willing to bet as long as you're a flexible, adaptable person, probably like 75% of those versions are still doing well and happy, even though they could be vastly different, right?
Fair.
And so that might be a comforting thing to think that like, oh yeah, it could have been, but you know what? Actually, all these ways could work. There's so many viable paths.
That's actually a really good way of looking at it. Yeah, it's not like there's not like the one correct Sierra somewhere floating around.
Yeah.
That's fair too. And there's a lot of decisions that I feel like are pretty small in comparison as well that I don't know, I overlook.
Yeah.
Yeah. I dwell.
Wait, overlook or
No,
look too much into?
Yeah, I meant I
Yeah.
dwell on small things that probably don't matter as much.
Yeah. I mean, I do the same thing. Like, there's, like, really small things that give me way more anxiety than they should. And my wife, like, doesn't understand sometimes some of the things that gives me, like, dealing with, like, reporting, like, purchasing, like, at work. For some reason, it just gives me so much anxiety. I'm like,
They're gonna miss
what if I
something?
can't find that receipt? Or, yeah. it's
I'm gonna go to prison forever.
Even when I was making the purchases for Oshi, I was like, oh no, if I type in the address wrong, it's going to go to some random place and we're going to still get charged for it. It's like, this is going to be wrong.
It's the same thing with like taxes. Like no one really knows how to do taxes.
Yeah.
You go through
No one really knows how to do
Really
taxes.
knows how to do taxes.
Yeah.
Not at our
Yeah.
age. Our age, like we're all the same age here. Like they have like TurboTax and stuff, and you just like you're just trusting that they're gonna do it. What if in like 10 years I'm in prison? They're like, you didn't do it right in 2014,
and you're held accountable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a law where it's like after so many years they can't like try you for it.
How
Is
long
there a
is that?
statute of limitations on
I
it?
think
I think there is.
I
It's like
think
for 10 years.
okay.
I think it's like 10 years or something.
Nice.
10 years. No.
Start the clock.
Start the clock. No.
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to say. Sorry, I always forget my cover my butt thing.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. So if you, I'm always reminded of this because there's something borderline that does remind me is the three of you. If you say you're not protected from self-incrimination on this podcast, and also if I think you're in danger, I have to report it. And anything we say does not necessarily reflect the views of Michigan Tech. There, I did my cover.
Very true.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
I am not committing tax fraud. Keep that in mind.
I'm not
Yes.
intentionally committing tax fraud.
Yeah, intentionally is the key word there.
Yeah. So, what books are you guys reading these days?
I'm only reading fiction.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, I was reading this other book for a class, but my take on it is kind of political, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
And it's for a class, and I don't want to start beef.
Okay.
So I'm gonna leave that one there. Carson, what do you
That's
read?
fair. Not gonna lie, I don't read that much.
Yeah.
But the one book that I do want to start is Dune, because I've been waiting for so long for part 2 to come out, but I still want to go back and read the books and see what's different between that. I watched the first one.
You watched the movie?
Yeah, I've seen part 1. I need to watch part 2 when it comes out, but I don't know if I'm gonna be at home for just long enough because it comes out the Friday of our spring break.
Oh.
So
Oh, is it coming out that soon?
March 1st.
Oh,
Yes.
Wow.
cool.
So anybody who wants to watch Dune 2, March 1st.
Beautiful.
movie.
I didn't watch the first one.
You should watch the first
I
one.
should. I know. I saw the cast, like the lineup, and I got really excited about it, and then I just completely forgot about
It's
it.
very Avatar and like the very big movie. It's just
Yeah.
like a lot of lore behind it, very
A lot of world
big
building.
visuals, a lot of world building.
Yeah.
You've read Dune.
But
I read 75% of it, and I got a little bored.
75% of the first book, or
The
like
first
of the
book.
series?
The first
Oh,
book. Yeah, I got a little
Lord.
bored.
Really?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I don't know. I think it's interesting. I find like in grade school, it seems like there's this big thing about, oh God, I've been videotaping myself for a really long time, and you guys have been talking. That's embarrassing. Anyways, so I found in grade school, right, like there's this big push of read, and I find that when most people get to like college, it has to go to the wayside because there's all this other stuff that you have to
Textbooks.
do. Yeah. And so that's what happened to me is I like kind of stopped reading in college, and then grad school didn't really have time to read, and then finally I'm like kind of excited because after I graduated and got a job, I could like actually like I read religiously every morning. I'll wake up at 6 and just read. Anyways, but I tried reading Dune. I was like, you know, when I saw the movie's gonna come out, I think I was still in grad school. I might have been, and I tried reading the book then, and I was kind of busy, and my reading attention span I think was a little less refined at that point, and so I might go back to it. I don't know. Yeah.
and after reading a bunch of white papers and technical documentation, it
Yeah.
really pushes me off of
It's
reading, and I need
something
to
else.
stop looking
Yeah.
at a piece of paper on a screen
Yeah.
and start doing something else.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
just don't have the self-control to stop reading when I'm like,
Oh,
I don't have
really
the
into
time to read, but if I
Yeah.
start reading something that's good, I'm just going to be
Yeah.
like, I don't need to do homework. I can just keep
Yeah,
reading this.
Yeah.
I'll just get
too.
way too into it. So it's a bad idea.
I feel like your sentiment about like losing like the hobby of reading can kind of be drawn out to like all hobbies. Like I started like schoolwork, and then I was like, oh, schoolwork is now like my one and only thing. Like me being a student is also my hobby. Like on top
Yeah.
of being like
Oh,
my
yeah.
career or whatever.
Yeah.
Now that like I'm like about to be out, I'm like, I can do things that I like again.
Things are starting to open up.
Things are
Yeah.
starting to open up of like, whoa, I'm gonna have like time. Just because like you get a job, I mean, not for you maybe, but like other like 9 to 5s, like it ends at 5. You get to go home, which I think you've been better about this.
I'm pretty strong on 9 to 5 myself. Yeah.
Is healthy and good.
Yeah.
But like for now, it's just kind of like it never turns off. Like you go to bed and you're like, I could be using my time doing this other thing.
Last semester when I was on co-op and I didn't have school, I had so much free time. I did so many things, and now I have school is my hobby. Like I don't have extra time.
Yeah, I think part of the issue though with being an engineer is just, at least for me, I'm always thinking about whatever was going on at work. That's just what I like to do. I like electronics. I like circuit theory and design. And so when I was on co-op at Plexus last spring, summer, and I would get back home and I'd just still be thinking about stuff that was going on at work. Like, oh, how could I design this? How could I do that?
That's fair.
And so it never really stopped, but it wasn't like a requirement. So I could just stop thinking about it if I wanted to.
Yeah, it's the
is
choice
nice.
there. Because I also have that, but it's like there's no one's like waiting for you to finish this like at home.
It's the guilt that comes with like, oh, I could have been using that last hour to be doing the next homework assignment, or like studying, or like going over lecture content.
So like, yeah, I have that. So I sat down at one point during grad school and I wrote down like the things that cause me anxiety. Like, you know, I get like anxiety about stuff, and I never actually like stood back until this time that I actually did to like identify like what sorts of things actually would trigger my anxiety, and it was just kind of a almost meta-analysis. And I found like, so financial instability, right? That's the thing that caused me anxiety. And then the next big one was open-ended projects. Like, I don't know when the end's gonna be. And so those two things were pretty much being a grad student, like to a T. Because I would do that same thing. I would get home, right, and I'd be like, I could be spending this time researching something on my computer, or I could be doing this, or this. My way to combat that is, and I still mostly do that today, is I make daily to-do lists, right? Yeah. And that way, like when I get to the end of the day, and it's a skill. Like you have to kind of get better at making achievable to-do lists. But you check all that stuff off, and you can look at it and say, there we go. Like, I know I still have more work to do, but I put that on tomorrow's thing. And it's almost like a psychological, like, cue, like, go pursue something else because you got enough done, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a good way of doing it. I started making to-do lists, but I have found, in my mind, the deadline is midnight. So I can wait until 10 p.m. and get it all done in 2 hours. And I've done all my things. But I procrastinated like the whole day.
I became very good at that last semester because I had power electronics, and all the homeworks were due at 8 a.m. on Wednesday. So like, it was due at like midnight Tuesday I set for myself, but I would start them like a week ahead of time and try to get them done as soon as possible. And towards the end of the semester, it just started to kind of roll off to, I'll do that later, and then it
5 a.m.
dug into this semester as well, and it's procrastination's not great, but
no, but it's a reality. I don't know. At least you're honest with yourself. That's the first step, is admitting you have a problem.
I just won't stop thinking about things until I do them. So like, I definitely still procrastinate, but the level of procrastination is like, it's not like I'm procrastinating to do something relaxing or fun. I'm procrastinating to worry about the thing I have to do.
Yeah. You're in pain until you do the thing.
Yeah, so usually I just like, okay, I just have to do this. Like,
I would love to get a poll of how many people on campus have anxiety, specifically engineers.
Well, I think mental health and wellness, or whatever the actual department is, they do like screening at the library to see like if you have depression or anxiety, and so those numbers actually might exist already.
Interesting.
I mean,
but it wouldn't be campus wide though. It'd be like whoever like shows up to get a screen.
Yeah. So it's kind of self-selected and biased. I don't know. Maybe during microcontrollers, I'll do an anonymous survey where everyone closes their eyes, and we'll see like how many people identify as
with anxiety.
I almost feel like you need a level of that anxiety for some of the mindset of a lot of engineers.
Anxiety is just a mechanism that your brain has, and different things employ it. You know, so
and that definitely drives me to get work done. Is like, oh no, I need to get this done. So like I get it done, and then once it's over, I'm like, okay, cool, I can relax now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got diagnosed for anxiety last year, and I started on anxiety meds. And my experience is not going to be everyone's experience, but it felt good. Like, not like my anxiety definitely went away a lot, but it was like the worst my grades have ever been. Because I just like kind of was like, oh, it's fine. Like, I just kind of didn't care.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this is not me. Like,
Yeah.
anxiety sucks, but it's
hard
also
to
like very
function.
much part of me.
Yeah, that's fair. And part of it might be just like needing to like have that like overlapping time of you're adjusting and then like it gets better, but going through the overlapping time it, as a student is just like not worth it.
Yeah.
It was weird when I was doing every semester up until the semester I had electronics. I wasn't getting a perfect 4 point, but I was getting pretty high. And then that last semester the semester I had electronics, I was stressed out of my mind. I was putting a ton of time into Formula SAE when I was still on that part of that enterprise, electronics, EMAG, signals. I don't even know what else, but I was getting very little sleep, doing nothing but homework all day, and I got a 4 point that semester. And I don't know how it happened that way. I didn't look at my grades a single time. I just did homework, and I was constantly thinking about homework and nothing else.
I do better when I'm extra busy.
Yeah.
If I'm like medium busy, it's easy to just not.
It's easy to be like, I don't want to do
That's-
this right now. I have
That's
time.
true. That
Yeah.
is true. I've actually experienced the same thing where like, if my schedule is packed, it's like I have no room to like dink around. Like I have to have allocated times to get things done. Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that thing about like not looking at grades and all that stuff. So on my wall of inspiration back there, right? So those are all people that in some way, shape, or form have influenced the way I think. Anyway, up at the top right, that's a professor I had at Saginaw Valley State University where I did my undergrad. His name is Dr. Burnett. His first name's Doctor. No. Anyways, and I had him for Physics 1 and Physics 2. And one, he was such an impressive professor because he would come in, we would do our notes on the board, and he would never have any notes. And so he would just derive all the equations and everything, and it would be like, we would start like with a capacitor, and all of a sudden he would point at a number and be like, that's the speed of light. Like we just derived the speed of light, and it was like, whoa.
3 times 10 to the 8.
Anyways, huh?
3 times 10 to the 8.
You know it? Perfect. Anyways.
2.99 actually.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, right.
But so the thing with him is he didn't give exam grades back. He didn't really even give any grades back the entire semester. You could come and talk to him about the exam afterwards and all that. But his philosophy was that, you know, like the military thing where like the officer says jump and then everyone says like how high sir or something along those lines. His thing was like, it doesn't matter where you're at right now, you should always be jumping as high as you can, right? So like he really didn't want to have those like bean counting students that's like, I only need to get 70% on this exam and all that stuff to get a certain grade. Instead, it's like, don't worry about the grade, just invest in actually learning the stuff,
Yeah.
right? And I know like students are really angry in his class. They were like gonna go to like the dean of students and all that stuff. And I think a bunch of us got like A's and B's, and they were all like reasonable grades. The stuff was challenging, but yeah. And so like, so I had him for Physics 1, and I remember being really stressed. And then I had him for Physics 2, and I knew that I put a lot of effort in, and I got a decent grade. And all of a sudden, it was like, I just need to put that level of effort in, and I'll get that grade. And it worked. And so it was an interesting, kind of liberating thing. I don't quite have the cojones to do that myself.
Well, I mean, probably for the best, because if you almost like was at the end of like getting fired or something from students.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
I don't know if it got that bad, but.
No. I think like people were gonna go to the dean of students, but they never did. It was basically like, if I end up failing this class, then I'm gonna go to the dean of students, and no.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair. I feel like there's something on that wall that is an outlier. There's someone up there that doesn't make sense with the rest of the people, and I feel like we need to talk about it.
Who?
The Here Johnny thing.
Here, Johnny.
Jack Nicholson look.
I'm like noticing like all these like prestigious people, and then there's just that one.
Yeah. So that's my high school physics teacher, Rob Mock. You probably can't see him if I zoom in. Even on this camera. It's back there. Anyways, yeah, so that's my high school physics teacher, Rob Mock.
Sorry, what?
Rob Mock is his name.
The guy in the movie.
No, that's not Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not. No, it was it was a goofy picture that he took. I stole from his Facebook.
Oh my word, that looks like straight up like the... Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, no. So that was just him being goofy, but yeah,
I got concerned because I was like, these are the people I look up to, and I was like,
yeah, Jack Nicholson.
Let's do.
Jack and,
I mean,
I'm
his
just
dedication
really,
to
I'm
his
ready to
craft.
snap.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm ready to snap,
Yeah.
just like the guy up there.
no, it's okay. You guys want to hear a little thing? I'll cover up my microphone so no one else hears. A little secret. Well, okay, so
You just clip it.
yeah. So how many? Do you ever find that some people's personalities you mimic a little part of? You're like, I like that person.
Absolutely.
And so like Rob Mock is one of those people. Like if you were to go back and watch videos of him doing high school, you would find overlap between the way I actually teach my classes. Seriously, and one of the things he would always do, and I try and do it too, because it always felt like I always liked it, was when he was explaining something and you finally got it, he'd go, and he would like snap his finger like that. And it would be like like a signifying like he recognized you got it.
I have seen you doing that
And
before.
yes, you've seen me like probably snap before, and so I stole that from him. Anyways, it's so crazy because there's a couple people in high school that I kind of keep in contact with, but then I keep like every time I go down south, I visit Rob, like my high school physics teacher. I do, yeah. And so we like play board games and chit chat. And actually, so Rob, he officiated my wife and I's wedding. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Is
That's
he like
crazy.
super excited that you also became a teacher?
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a degree of like pride. The thing is, he's retired now. He's a big person on like financial independence and retiring early, and so he retired really early. And anyways, so he retired, and he's got a really big Tesla coil that you could wrap your arms around, and he wants me to have it, and so I'm kind of excited to inherit that.
Jeez.
It is 4:43. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
No.
I gotta go. So this is gonna be a
you're
little
good.
short episode, but I have to ask our final question. And I'm actually kind of sad because this is a really good conversation that we were kind of having. But maybe we'll have to have an episode
Rando,
too.
Have a
Part two.
return. Yeah.
Yeah.
The return.
Yeah. So, but my final question for each one of you, real quick, is which album do you recommend someone listens to? Like, what do you recommend? We'll
On the
go.
spot.
Yep.
Any genre specific or
Something to you like.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta listen to this.
Okay. Go.
Let Them Only See Butterflies by Grabbits.
What kind of music is that?
It's like indie rock mixed with EDM.
Nice.
Came out last year. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Beauty.
I'm gonna have to go with "Take Me Back to Eden" by Sleep Token. It's a metalcore band, but they throw in like a couple different genres. They're super big right now. It's like an anonymous. They wear like masks, kind of thing.
Kinda like
Super
Slipknot and
groovy.
Yeah.
Not well.
I mean, not Slipkot, but
genre wise.
the mask wise, yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess mine would be Ram by Daft Punk, Random Access Memories. It's just that
Yeah.
I love Daft Punk. I love EDM music.
Yeah.
And that's just one album I can go back to and listen to the full thing front
What
to back.
songs are on that one?
Oh, Give Life Back to Music, Lose Yourself to Dance, Giorgio by Mordor, Contact.
Okay, so
Touch. There's a lot of really
What's
big
the one
ones.
that's like really colorful and it's like the mercurial Daft Punk on the
Where it's like the mask split in half.
maybe? Yeah, I can't.
That's Ram.
That's Ram. Okay.
Yeah, because all their others are just Daft Punk in words.
What's the one that's like one more time?
One more time.
We're gonna
That
sell-
one's on Discovery.
Gotcha. That's
Yeah.
the one.
I would
that's one of
recommend
my
the
favorite albums.
full. I've listened to the full their full discography front to back. Homework, Discovery,
Yeah.
just all of it's great.
Have you played Just Dance?
I'm not a big dancer, but I have played Just
They
Dance
have
before.
a Daft Punk song on
I'm
Just
sure
Dance.
they do. They
phenomenal.
won album of the year back in I think it was 2014 for Ram. So
I think 2014 is probably the last time I listened to Daft Punk. I have not
Yeah.
heard that band in a second.
oh, they're good.
Same thing with like Bruno Mars though.
they've
Bruno Mars
split,
came out
but
with something. And
just unfortunate.
do you have a favorite album?
Well,
Do you ever get asked this question back?
well, yeah, I think this is the third time this has happened now.
Sorry.
Well, no, that's okay.
Big fan.
What's another different album that I really recommend? I mean, Stadium Arcadium by Red Hot Chili Peppers. Right? It's kind of panned by some fans. Are like, oh, it's not that good. But honestly, like, so it's a double album, and it's like each song is like, in my opinion, really good. So, yeah.
You give off like Fleetwood Mac vibes.
I like Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like Rumors, like that album, like it deserves all like the
Top tier.
Yeah, it's really
Valid.
good. Yeah.
All right, you need to pick up your daughter.
I have to go pick up my daughter.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Yes.
for being on the Rando special. I kind of like Rando specials. So.
Very
All right.
fun. A cluster.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, buddy.
Thank you.